seriously, I just got up. I was at a nonprofit event last night. They asked me if I would help them with their silent auction, which is a very simple request. And, I said, sure. So I helped do all of the putting together the pricing and the little sheets and the displays and everything. And the event, they wanted me there at 5:30, and so that I could handle the silent auction and check people out after the end, whatever won. I'm surprised the restaurant didn't get hostile, because we didn't leave until 2:00 in the morning. There was over 100 people there that were still partying, spending money, buying stuff at the auction table, buying stuff at the raffle table. I mean, just totally involved.
So,
and,
hey, Sumner, what's it? You said you did a silent auction. What is it for? Is it a charity or?
It was a charity event. Yes, it's a charity called Chica's Mom. And the way it started is this person decided that she needed to help young Hispanic women who were single moms, and try to help them get whatever they needed for help and assistance to get them on the right path. They have entrepreneur classes now. The organization's, I think, about 15 years now. They have entrepreneur classes. They have computer classes. They bring me in to talk about accessibility when they're building websites for these young entrepreneurs. They have nutrition classes. They have financial classes. I mean, it's like their own little community of education to help people succeed. And I'm just so tickled that she found her niche. And one of the persons they helped was a young man, and he started a cookie company, and he donated cookies last night. So I am OD'd on cookies. Homemade delicious cookies.
Wow.
But yeah, their whole objective is, how can we empower people to be able to be their honest self, and not only contribute to their own life, but make a difference in the world. And they had people they were giving awards to who'd started new businesses, who'd gone great milestones in their businesses, who'd reached out and helped other people. It was very inspiring.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, and that's a perfect transition. I wanted to welcome everybody to today's meetup. And today is really a chance for us just to share a couple things. One is, like Sumner mentioned, there's so many people doing great things in the community. We wanted to talk about that, but also we just had WordCamp US, and there are a few people that jumped on that were there that I'm so excited to see here, like Bob and William are in different parts of the country. Are you in Portugal yet, William? Or, I mean, Bob, I'm sorry.
No, sir. We are home in Jacksonville, Florida, cleaning up a little bit after the hurricane. So that would be a nice trip.
Wow. Well, I know, but I sort of mixed up the name. I'm sorry, Bob. I know Bob he went to WordCamp Europe, and he loved Portugal so much that, aren't you planning to move there, Bob?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I actually earlier this week. Well, yeah, I guess it's still this week. We went to the Portuguese consulate in San Francisco because we had to submit our application. So just a process of going through paperwork for an hour and then handing it to the powers that be, and hoping that in the next 60 to 90 days, they will give us our visa. So now we're in a waiting period, I guess you could call it.
So was it as simple as you going to WordCamp Europe and seeing how beautiful that town was and said, hey, I want to move there? Or had you had experience?
Yeah, actually, it was the first time both of us had been to Europe. And I mean, we've always talked about, oh, let's go to Europe, let's check it out, things like that. And I don't know, it's I wish I could narrow it down to one thing. It just felt right. We got there, and the second day we were there, Judy and I were walking around, which is my wife, and she said, I could live here. And we just kind of, you jokingly say something like that, somewhere. But I think it was just, it was the right time in our lives. We're kind of, frustrated with certain things in this country. I mean, there was a lot of things and there was just a certain feel about the people there. And just when we walked around, a certain vibe we got, the more we talked about, the more serious we got. And Judy and I have never been anybody to plan anything. So we do these things very spur of the moment type of stuff. And yeah, by the time we got back, and I had to stay 7 days there extra because I got COVID. So I was isolated in the hotel after WordCamp Europe. But yeah, after we got back, we talked more and more about it. We thought, well, maybe this is the thing to do right now. And, just to get into immerse ourselves in a different culture and just go for it. So that's what we're doing. We're pretty serious about it because we've basically applied for our visa. Now we just, need to
it's official now. That's amazing. And
It
William,
sounds lucky too that you landed in Portugal for your first European visit, because I mean, I can think of a lot of other countries you wouldn't have had the same idea. This is so, laid back and carefree in Portugal. And I frankly have never been there. I've only met Portuguese people, and there's really beautiful. Amazing.
Yeah, it is very laid back, and it's going to be a really slow down pace for us. I mean, it's probably going to be good for us. We learned there's this thing called the Portuguese shrug. And I'm not exactly sure what that means, if it's actually a physical shrug, but it's if you stand in line for 2 hours and you get to the door and they say, sorry, we're closed now, you just kind of shrug and say, hey, that's the way it is. So it's their attitude. And it just, that kind of just was catching. Once we were there, we thought this is some place for us to be right now. And like I said, and yeah, to mellow out and enjoy a new culture. We just really want to do that. We want to not go over as Americans and live in the low pocket of American expats. We want to be in Porto and just assimilate ourselves into it. So
awesome.
I have a friend that went to visit 2 years. She never came back. She did. She came back to pack her house and go down there. And she has loved it. She just celebrated her 2-year anniversary living in there. And she just attributes it to changing her whole life, her whole focus, and everything that she does. She had an accident when she was down there. She fell down some stairs or something, broke her legs really bad. Health insurance cost her like zero. People came and visit her. Neighbors she didn't even know came to visit to make sure she was okay and brought her food and walk her dogs. I mean, it's like the word got out. We have a community member that needs our help, and they showed up. She said it's an amazing, amazing place.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And William, you're okay with the hurricane, yeah? William's in Florida, but you're further north, yeah? Or
Right, yeah. When the hurricane came up this way, it was interesting how it hit the western coast and it cut through the middle of the state, which had never happened before, from what I understand and listening to the news. And here in Jacksonville, we were like right on the edges of it. And again, we got a lot of flooding, a lot of wind damage. We had some water damage to where the ground was so saturated with water, it started leaking underneath the walls on one side of the apartment. And we had never experienced that. And it's like, we were mopping up and cleaning up, but it was interesting how, there was so much water. Now, we've had tropical storms, but we've never had that happen. But the amount of water that was there, that was dropped, was just amazing in the winds. So we're just thankful for, the little stuff that we went through, but we just, praying for those that got hit, Fort Myers and Orlando. And even St. Augustine, you look at the video in St. Augustine, they really got pummeled in Daytona Beach. So, but yeah, we're okay.
Oh, that's good. That's so good. I know, and if folks haven't noticed by the small thumbnails and on the screen, there are quite a few shirts with looks like a sun on them, and that's part of why we're meeting today, is to sort of reconnect, like we did a couple weeks ago in San Diego, and just share our experiences. And Sally, I wanted to welcome you too. I want to start with you. Let's sort of go around and introduce ourselves, but then again, we're sort of family, so we kind of know each other. Share anything you want to about yourself and any experiences at WordCamp US you want to talk about, and we'll get it started that way. If you notice, William has a different color shirt on, and there's a reason for that. So I guess when we get back around to him, he could tell us why. All right, Sally, start us off. And welcome, by the way.
You're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I didn't have a microphone before. There's something wrong with my computer. Best Buy, $9.99 plug-in
Hey, I was going to say,
microphone.
and you could tell when we get to Bob's introduction, you'll be able to tell why he has such a great microphone and a great voice.
Well, hi, thanks. I'm actually, ending my 2-year journey when I started to learn about accessibility in WordPress. And
You're ending it. What does that mean? That sounds drastic.
well, no, it's
Keep
been
saying that.
No, it's been, yeah, I'm leaving. Bye. No, it's been an incredible 2-year journey. I started my first meetup with Mike Pilley, where I met Joe Simpson Jr. I was going to build my website, and then he told me about accessibility, and then I was at the mega meetup, and Sumner was there. Alicia's helping me build my website because its concept keeps changing, but it's finalized now. But I just dove into accessibility, and it was just such an incredible experience beyond what I could ever have imagined, and has totally changed my life. I have all these new friends, and I got to meet several of you guys at WordCamp, and I even met Bob WP at WordCamp. He sat and had lunch with us, and that was cool. We still have to meet Sumner and a few others, but you guys have just really encouraged me through this, and I ended up being a first-time speaker at WordCamp. And I never
US. It's like the difference between TED and TEDx. Same.
Oh, TEDx, yeah.
It's
I mean, they have 450 speaker applications and 44 were chosen. And I got chosen as a reserve. I just took a shot, like I submitted last minute just to see. And because my whole thing is I'm still learning the technical stuff, accessibility.
Yeah, so we all are.
Yeah.
Yes.
But my goal is to inspire more people to start their journey. And that's happening. And it's just so great to be able to give back in that way. So thank you. I mean, all of you have just been a big inspiration and new friends. And yeah, my life's very different now than 2 years ago when COVID first hit.
Hey, so getting up on stage, how was that? Did you have nerves? How was the audience interaction? How did you like the experience overall?
Well, I was so nervous. Remember our meetup before? I was nervous. I'm like, what if no one shows up, right? And you guys were like, great. And Sumner was like, even if there's one person in the room, you just give it your best shot. But it was like someone was trying to stop me from going, because that Tuesday I locked my keys in the car in Bakersfield. I was locked out in 100-degree weather for 3 hours. On my way there Thursday, I got a flat. And I didn't think I was going to be able to make it, because if I had a donut on my car, there's no way I could have drove to San Diego. I live just outside of Los Angeles. And then we get to the hotel and there's no internet, so I couldn't practice. There's no hot water. We had Florida weather. My hair that day was like perfect. I was like, wonderful. I go outside, it all frizzes out. I was so nervous, like shaking nervous, because this was a big deal. But Kimberly LaPerry was amazing. She, calmed me, and because I get nervous pretty easily, and I'm not used to speaking in front of large groups of people. And she was like, remember, they're all developers here. Most of them, they're all introverts. They just want to hear what you have to say, and she just really helped a lot. And then I got up there, and then they did the introduction, which I guess was on the website, which was pretty much my whole talk. And I was like, oh, okay, well, what do I do now? But the lights were shining in my eyes, so I couldn't see, which I think helped. I could see Alicia sitting there smiling, so that gave me encouragement in the front row. Thank you, Alicia. And then those time clock things started. Like, the time just goes fast. And I started getting really nervous, and I forgot a lot of stuff to say. But Kim said, hey, no one's going to know what you didn't say. So or Alicia said that, or someone said that. And so there was some, laughs in it, because I included that AAA, like, I don't know, changing the tire, because he showed up and I was just crying. He's like, why are you crying? And I'm like, I'm on the way to this big conference, and it's my first time speaking, and I'm so excited. And if there's a donut as my spare, I can't go. And he's like, well, let's just wait and see, and then thankfully it was a brand new full tire in the spare. So I got in at like, yeah, pretty late. And then, so afterwards, Scott Damon, who was on our organizing team for WordCamp Santa Clarita, was there and came up and introduced themselves, and DJ Billings, who was a volunteer. And it was, I'm glad I spoke the first day because I could enjoy the rest of the conference and not be anticipating. So if you're ever going to speak, try and get the first day, the first
Oh,
slot.
you can't, you don't have that leverage.
Yeah.
All I know is they throw me in after lunch on the
Yeah.
day that I speak, because apparently I wake people up.
Yeah. So it was amazing. And there was people online from around the world that wrote me that, you know, were inspired. And it's just, you never know how you can make a difference, you
Yeah.
know, and it was just incredible. And Sumner, it's in my big red pot at Sumner early in January did an amazing post about like high points in your life through the year. And I don't know if you want, Sumner, you can tell them about it.
Well, we're doing the introductions right now.
No pressure.
Yeah, we'll get around to that.
Joe,
let's-
you're sounding kind of funny there.
Ooh, oh, okay.
Yeah, did your boss show up, Joe? What happened?
Oh no, actually I'm on and I apologize. I'm on my Wi-Fi. So it looks like it looped me
Oh,
off.
he's a
So
hotspot.
do I still
No. That's what you sound like,
I
Joe.
heard hotspot. I got enough
Hey,
out of
Sally, Lynn and I saw you on the live stream and you were great, okay? We
Yeah,
really
that's the
dug-
thing. Sally
two
turned
thumbs
into
up
a
for you.
different
You did a
person
Thank
when
you.
she got behind the podium. She was like on point. It was amazing.
Years. I mean, whoever would have thought that, you know, and it's not over. And now I'm diving into code more. And I sold my first accessible website this week. So very excited.
Hey!
All right, so if you can hear me, I'm going to put it in the chat. William, it's your turn. Go next.
Ah, there's Lynn.
All right.
William, your
Oh,
intro
William.
next.
You're on mute too.
Hey, Lynn, I was just telling Sally how great she was and how we both enjoyed her talk, just so you know what you just missed.
Oh yeah, that's why I was clapping. I'm trying to multitask. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, Aida and I we were walking around and listening, and it was really amazing. You know, all the presentations and everything. And Sally, sometimes that's when you go through that, that's just a challenge to see how bad you want it. So it's like you appreciate the journey, and you know, even though you're trying to get to a destination, sometimes the journey defines who you are. So I applaud you for, you know, sticking with it, and it was a great presentation. So congratulations.
Thank you. And it was wonderful to meet you and your wife as well. I mean, it was just, and I just feel like I've known you guys forever. It was just like old friends just getting together. And it's been like 2 years virtually.
Right.
So,
Yeah, that's how the community is. It's just like, you know, we're all family and community and friends, no matter where we are. You know, it's really cool. So, you know, being here in Jacksonville and just, you know, both of us being teachers and, you know, working with different levels of kids and, you know, having our joint business, but having our separate business, you know, helping each other out and just embracing, you know, all the changes with not just STEM and STEAM that we teach about, but with the metaverse and, you know, trying to find ways to pair that with WordPress. It's just amazing how you get different ideas from different people, but you're kind of figuring out, well, how does this part fit with this part and this part fit with that part? But it's always a learning process. It is, because we're in the process of being certified virtual reality teachers. So with Engage.
Hey,
So,
William. Hey, William,
Yes.
can you talk a little bit about, I know you're going to do a presentation on the metaverse and WordPress coming up at a meetup. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that as well?
And how you're gonna invite Matt.
Oh, yeah.
Your question during Matt's chat was cool.
Oh my God, he's clueless.
And your blue shirt.
Oh, the blue shirt. Well, yeah, the blue shirt. When Aida and I, any type of WordCamp conference, we always have, you know, kids and some adults that we try to get swag for to bring back here. So we can be a blessing to them and keep them aware of what's going on. And then when we start doing workshops again here in the community, we use that swag to, inspire the kids and adults that attend so they learn more about our community, so they don't feel like, okay, this is just a one-time thing. We share with them the beauty and engagement and the love of the community that we have, so that, if they have questions or whatever, we encourage them, to attend a meetup, to be involved, particularly young ladies and girls, because they rarely see women in areas of technology, and we like to support them. And the boys, change their minds from just sports and entertainment into technology areas, where they can, start careers and be entrepreneurs. So when we get the shirts and everything, we always volunteer. So on the back, it has volunteer. So when someone asks us, oh, what is that? And just last week, we had a gentleman, when we went to a restaurant, asked us, like, what is WordPress? What was WordCamp US? So we had a chance to talk to him and his family about it, which opens up a lot of doors to have conversation. So
yeah, and you're doing a meetup soon, yeah?
Yeah, we're going to do the meetup. Since we had to reschedule because of the water stuff, how to collaborate and combine WordPress with the metaverse, and to make it seamless with web development and virtual reality spaces, like platforms like Spatial, because a lot of companies now are, bringing in virtual reality areas, virtual reality spaces, but still that content that's on a web page, how do you blend those together? And we're going to talk about that and how to apply it to business as well.
Awesome. So what I'll do is, once you get a new date, and again, I know you've been displaced a little bit by the storm, let me know and I'll share it with our group.
Oh, okay.
These are definitely going to be online and VR locations, right?
Yes.
Okay.
We have like a PowerPoint, but through the PowerPoint, we're going to bring up All Space VR, Spatial, probably Engage, where we're going to be teaching, and there's a couple other spaces.
Yeah, because we're integrating Zoom with AltSpace.
Right. Yeah.
And stuff.
Yeah. Those are kind of like, what is it? Zoom on steroids, from what I heard.
Yeah, well, that's the metaverse. It's taking all these platforms and integrating them together so that everyone can experience them from their own platform.
Right. Oh, yeah.
All right.
Tell Matt that. I'm sorry.
No.
I was so disappointed in his answer to you. I was like, he has no idea. He thinks the metaverse is Facebook.
Oh, no. Yeah, no, the metaverse is just one aspect of
his answer.
There are so many metaverses out there.
So thanks, William. And Ida, if she's around, tell her I said hello.
Okay.
So, and those of us that know William in the WordPress space, there is no William without Ida at these events. So
exactly.
They brought the weather with them.
yes.
When we got to US, we felt so bad because it was a hurricane that came up the coast. I was like, y'all following us or something? But
it was all humid, and like they were like, wait,
I know,
be better than Florida here. Why is it the same as Florida?
Exactly.
Like,
and Aida was talking about her hair too. It's like, she did her hair all nice and everything, hit that humidity and whoosh.
Yeah, because I'm from Montreal originally and always dealt with that humidity, and I love California because I don't have to. And I was just like taken back.
Right.
All right. So next up, we have someone brand new. So Suzette, why don't you take a chance and jump in, introduce yourself. You mentioned it to those of us that jumped on early, but go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, I've spoken at 40 WordCamps, but
I've seen her before.
Not since 2016. I'm not speaking now. I got a job with Warner Brothers Discovery. So I'm doing WordPress and Drupal. So I'm doing a lot of content training around that. And I'm very passionate about accessibility. And it's a new area. So I'm trying to get my team on board with it. And I'm studying to become a certified professional in accessibility core competencies. And I'm hoping to do that, but I do SharePoint, I do Drupal, I do WordPress, I do all the different web stuff, and it's a lot of fun. And I didn't get a chance to go to US WordCamp, but I've been to a lot of them.
Awesome. Yeah, if you've done 20, I mean, you've probably been everywhere.
40.
40. Oh, wow.
Everywhere,
seen
all
your
over the
feet.
United
That's awesome.
States.
I know.
Yeah,
Wow.
all over and Canada also. Yeah, when I used to work with Media Temple, so they shipped me around and I spoke at a lot of, and I remember Bob, I met Bob in Seattle before once. That was really nice.
And that's
you
a,
might be in Orange
Yeah,
County.
there.
and I was going to go in now, and that was a perfect transition. Bob, why don't you introduce yourself? Those of us that know Bob in the community knows his great work with his podcast and his work with WooCommerce. But I know, Alicia, you've been on his show before. Bob's been gracious enough to present a topic at our meetup. But it was great to finally meet you in person during our coffee and hang out during the event. So with that great roadway, why don't you land the plane?
Excuse me, I got a cold in San Francisco when I was there, and thankfully it isn't COVID. I was scared when I came back. It felt like that, same kind of symptoms. Yeah, I'm known around the space as Bob WP. It's kind of a brand I built in 2010. So I started with WordPress in 2006, I think. So I've been around, done a lot of stuff, been to a lot of different WordCamps. I used to speak in the earlier years and kind of stepped back. And right now I have Do the Woo, which is a podcast I've had for several years. And it's focused on WooCommerce, but it's really focused on the developers, the builders, the community. And it's actually expanding, although it's, kind of WooCommerce specific, a lot more into community. So the in a nutshell, it's just not going to be about the podcast. We're going to be supporting a lot through trying to get people to WordCamps on contributor days, doing some support financially through our sponsors and stuff, and doing some other, we're going to go more global, try to get more diversity on our actual podcasts and through our co-hosts. So there's going to be a lot of changes over the next few months. Pretty exciting stuff and quite a large endeavor, but I'm really, really looking forward to that. So it was cool being at WordCamp US. I've been lucky enough to be able to go to all the US ones and see a few faces and meet some new faces. And I spent most of my time just kind of wandering around, catching up, talking to new people like I always do with every one of the WordCamps. And yeah, it was of course, it was quite a bit different. I had been at WordCamp Europe, which was like,
The opposite end of the spectrum in terms of
people.
it
was like massive amounts of people there. It was bad enough at WordCamp US not connecting with people I wanted to there. It was just, it was great. It was a great event. It was really well organized. Loved doing it. It was the first time I'd been at WordCamp Europe, but yeah, it's WordCamp US was interesting because I could feel the intimacy of a smaller camp. And I think that there was certain benefits to that. You might think, you'd like to see more people there. Unfortunately, I think the biggest disadvantage to that, and I know the circumstances made it for small, was that a lot of people weren't able to attend because of that. So, and that's go ahead, Joe.
No. Oh, I was going to say, so what do you prefer? The super large camp versus a more intimate or something in the middle?
It's a catch-22. I still think, the local WordCamp should, that's kind of where you get that. And, unfortunately, we can't make it to every WordCamp, except some people go to 40 of them. And, that's a different story. But
40. We went to maybe many more.
Oh, yeah, that was only speaking. But no, I think for the WordCamp US and the regional ones, I do like them a bit bigger. I think only for the reason of opening it up to more people. And, I knew there was a situation where it just probably venue. I don't know the story behind it, but I accepted it because I knew they were probably doing what's best at this particular time. But I like a mix of both. And I do like the large ones too, because sometimes I run into people totally unexpected that I never had known. It was Sally. I was, ended up at her, just sat down at lunch. Sometimes I'll just find a table and sit down and start talking with anybody. And those are the things I love to do. So it happens both in the smaller and bigger, but the smaller I tended to know more people, which was great, catching up and stuff. But I'd like to see WordCamp US go back to being a bit bigger than it was, but still keeping the local like they are.
That's awesome. And to me, for those that may not know, that's one of my favorite things about WordCamps too. Just the lunch discussions, just with random people, are some of the best times. Yeah. So Alicia, that's a great transition to you, because again, you were on Bob's podcast one time, but you're here locally as well. So having it on the West Coast was a first.
Wait, what was that again, Joe?
Having it on the West Coast was a first, but have you ever been to a US before, or?
No, yeah. So I was like, I wasn't gonna miss this, and I was lucky enough that I could just drive and drive like after having only like maybe 36 hours after arriving home from Burning Man, and thinking that WordCamp US was starting on Saturday, and then being surprised late in the evening before that it wasn't. So I had to make the hard decision: do I drive now, or do I sleep an hour and get up at 5? So I ended up driving down there. It was awesome. I thought for the first time I actually stayed at the venue's hotel. That was actually a different experience, and I feel like I liked that a lot. Because it made it very accessible. The whole event was very accessible. It wasn't in segments for me. It felt like I was at a retreat.
Oh,
so
nice.
that is a different experience if you stay at the hotel where they're actually providing, if that's the case. A lot of times it's at a university and we're all doing that. I loved the so there's something special that's happened over the last 2 years, which is we've met a lot of people online, and we don't really even know how tall they are or whatever. And we've seen like the set behind them and things like that. And then you get to meet them in real life, and you don't actually, it's not a new experience. It's more like a picking up where I left off, where I talked with you last, even though I've only met you in person for the first time. And I feel like that's such a huge benefit for humanity because it makes a lot of this stuff that you end up like feeling it out when you're in person to get to know somebody. It's totally gone. And you can just get into, I already know you, let's talk about what we've always talked about. And I feel like it's such a great tool to get the introductions out of the way and then meet in person. VR is like that too, by the way. But I thought that it was an amazing event in that regard of meeting people. Hotel had a few issues. I watched Sally's talk. I was amazed by how well she did that talk. I really was. And it was 15 minutes. It was a lightning talk. She packed so much information in there. I saw Rich Tabor's part of his talk. And my favorite, okay, I wasn't going to do it. I had heard it was happening, Contributors Day, which I thought was on Monday because I thought it was. And when it was on, like,
you lost a day at Burning Man.
I usually leave on Sunday. What everybody talking about? It ends on Sunday. So I ended up doing Contributor Day, and it was really special to be in the room with so many people. I think that in the beginning it was like 150 people in that room, all at different tables, and the accessibility table. We started at one table and we ended up getting 1.5 more tables of people. And I hung around with Joe Dolson and Amber Hines and Alex Stein, all these people that are like really like vocal and really active in the scene. And it was really special. And we went out to dinner. So that was really the Contributors Day. I would highly recommend, if there is a Contributors Day, to actually show up to that. You don't even have to stay the whole time. You can bounce from table to table if you want to, but it just felt like a special community in that space that we were actually contributing to.
Making a difference.
Yeah,
you're making a difference to WordPress directly. Yeah,
it was really cool.
That's awesome. Does anyone else want to share if they participated in Contributor Day or not? Or the weekend in general? I know, Pam, you were a first timer. You're from Bakersfield, but I know you participated in the meetups there, but had you ever been to a camp before? And tell us about your experience with WordCamp US. And welcome, by the way.
Yay.
And you're and I was gonna say, you're another person that's much taller in person than I thought. Like you and Sally were much taller than I assumed, seeing you on screen all these years. Oh, hey, grandbaby. Oh, maybe you can't talk, or That's
Oh
fine.
no, it's okay. But I had such a good time. Such a good time, people. It was so good seeing Alicia, and I got pictures of being with Joe and Mike Tilley. That's who I work with in Bakersfield. Yeah. And I promised myself, and I did it. I started my own PamAkins.com. I even got a coupon code just to learn, then really just get my feet wet through WordPress. I'm gonna, eventually move everything over, migrated to WordPress.org. But I started. I have a PamAkins.com domain. I started because I was
Awesome.
inspired by the speaker. I was inspired by a lot of the speakers, but there was a speaker that talked about just start your own business card site, just get started. And I could kind of hear Joe in the back of my brain, like, take 5 minutes to set it up, just do it. So that's what I started. Just a little informational site, just kind of talk about my story, just to kind of play around with it to kind of get intimate with how it works.
What other encouragement can we provide, or like tips can we give you right now at this point in your journey on building your site?
I guess I don't have enough yet. I did start, and and as I'm doing it, I'm writing a little article to myself of the questions that I had, kind of like, how the heck do I move this picture, and what are these columns about? But what's nice is there's links as you're trying to do stuff that takes you to places like, oh, it makes sense now. And then I do, I'm a little worried about, how am I going to get the accessibility in there? But I don't have to worry about that right now, because I heard, is it easier to do accessibility on the .org version than the .com? I'm not sure.
Yeah, the .com, you can't access any code or anything. So it's all about how you're putting your content in. So that's where it usually goes south. So come to the meetups.
Exactly. I just keep on coming to the meetups and learning. So that was it. Those are the 3 points that I got some picks. I learned a lot, and I was inspired and started my site. Thanks, guys.
Yay.
Awesome. Awesome.
And on that, I finished my first WordPress kind of landing page from start of all my resources from my talk. Alicia helped me, and I was so proud of myself that I figured things out. I've watched a couple of the Learn Make Press videos that helped with the dashboard and all that. So I have one more question with Alicia on it, and then I'll be launching that on Tuesday. And it's just all the resources I've collected over the past 2 years, beyond what I talked about in my talk to help people get started. But I was so proud of myself that I did it all by myself. Well, Alicia helped, but I mean, like, she gave guidance, but so it's such a great feeling, right, Pam, to be able to do it?
Yes, I agree. Completely agree. And so, I'm just taking one baby step at a time, and it's so much easier than I thought it was going to be. It was just this fear in my head that stops me.
Yeah.
And so it's like, hey, and I've been working as a content creator in WordPress since 2015, but never with administrative rights, so that was the whole big deal. So, yeah.
And that's, I was getting congratulations. And that's a perfect transition to our next introduction. Lynn, I saw on LinkedIn that you mentioned something about a change in position. That's a pretty awesome connection to WordPress.
Hi, this is Lynn Nishihara. Oh, and Sally, I really did like your talk. Got to see it on Zoom, and you are very inspiring. I will get my site up soon, I hope. Kind of like Pam. I am the website administrator, aka webmaster for Airs LA, the audio. It's an internet radio station or services, sorry. And it's a volunteer position, sort of part-time because I haven't had that much work yet. However, what it is doing for me is that I am diving headfirst into HTML and administering a website. And I've thought of things to make it better, which I am going to try and do so that it has more functionality. So that's kind of exciting. And it's a lot of it is thanks to you guys. And I know for your advice.
And I know you and Larry attended WordCamp US virtually. How did you like that experience? Was it easy to find? Did you get to listen to all the presentations you wanted? Like, what was your experience like virtually?
Virtually, it was, unfortunately, I wasn't able to see as much of it as I wanted. And I would have rather have been there in person, but I would have preferred to have seen more. Virtually, it's okay, but like you were saying, you don't know how tall somebody is. And things like that. Although I'm pretty sure that if I were to meet you guys in person, I'd have a fairly decent chance of recognizing you, I think. I was able to hear everything of seeing things. It's a little bit more difficult, especially if the slides are not big. For example, things like a screenshot or seeing somebody screen it, I can't see it. And that's on my end, my magnification doesn't go up that high, but I was able to hear it okay. And was able to find things. I found the 2 tracks, and I found the one that I liked the most, which was the one that Sally was in, and some other people.
So do you feel like the subject matter or the topics that were available were interesting, or it didn't have enough of what you wanted, or how would you have tweaked the schedule if you had, if you were in charge?
I don't think I would have tweaked the scheduling. I found it, the subject matter fascinating. My regret is that I was unable to attend all the sessions that I wanted to because of real life constraints.
Okay.
When I say real life, it's because I live partially in the virtual world, and so it's that world plus the real life world. So to me, Zoom is kind of the virtual side of things.
Yeah, I know as part of the organizing team, I would have loved to seen more hybrid. You know, whatever they're doing live needs to be broadcast. I know some of the tracks, or I don't think the workshops were broadcast, which is sort of unfortunate. So hopefully this year we'll make a change there and make it available to more people that aren't able to attend in person.
There's one workshop where we were sitting in the room, we could barely see the screen, so that was not going to work out for. Yeah, it was just.
Yeah, and I know, and the one thing that I'm sort of happy about, and it sort of ties into the end part of our title for today's thing, is what we're going to be doing some things leading up to WordPress Accessibility Day. But for me personally, it's a tribute to Sumner, who's on the line, and that she's impacted so many of us in terms of accessibility. Being on, I'm going to be part of the lead team next year for US, so that means I'll be at the top of the chain, so to speak. But that's not to say that it's about the title, but I want to be there to make an impact on how things are seen, how people are accessing it. I don't know if people saw the article. There was sort of a dust up the following week. Michelle Ames mentioned how difficult the resort was from an accessibility standpoint and how it made her experience really tough. And so being on the lead team, like I put together some recommendations that are now on the WordPress.org site for picking a venue. I'm going to physically be at that venue. And so Sumner has instilled in me that ability to step forward and make an impact. So part of WordPress Accessibility Day, we're going to talk about how her influence has impacted our community from an accessibility standpoint. And we're going to have a panel that's going to talk about it. So that's what's really exciting for me. And it's just sort of how our community is and how we all care about each other, but we all learn from each other and are inspired to do things by each other.
Right. And if you're talking things about physical accessibility, it's I've been at conferences where they have people at major intersections that can help people that cannot navigate the hotel or the convention area, because sometimes it's difficult to find like a room number, for example. And if there's a person there that can help you or point you in the right direction and get you going, that's good.
That's a great point.
other things like elevator buttons. If they're flat, that doesn't do much good. But if it has like something tactile that you could tell, oh, this is up, this is down, that's great. And if the elevator talks to you, oh, you have reached the 3rd floor, you know, things like that is also great. The little, sometimes they ding, but if you lose track of the dings, it may be SOL unless there's somebody there that can tell you, oh, you've reached the 3rd, 4th floor. Just minor things like that. Where the restrooms are.
Those are not minor things, Lynn.
Yep. Yep. And I know
not underestimate. Those
Yeah.
are not minor things. And if you're ever if you're ever in a facility that you notice that it doesn't have accommodations that would make it more inclusive, be willing to speak up. Years and years and years and years ago, there was a convention in Anaheim, and it was a Disney convention, and it was right about the time they were filming. They were doing some publicity about Snow White, so they had a lot of little people, and they put them in this whole group of hotels. And guess where the elevator buttons were? They were above their head. That's how high the elevator buttons were at the hotel. And I was at that hotel, and it was my experience when I walked into the elevator, and suddenly it's full with people. And they said, can you please help us get to our floor?
Oh my God.
Before that event was over, the hotel was sued because that was an obvious one that, hey, you know, everybody needs to reach these buttons. There are certain ADA laws on physical accommodations, and in elevators, it's one of them, but it doesn't mean that it's enough. So if what would make it better is voice, then please tell hotels.
Oh, they had it there. That was voice in those elevators.
Yeah. And the braille that is on those buttons is there only because ADA came in. If you don't know and you're in a elevator and you need to get to the floor that will get you outside the fastest, find the button that has the star on it. That is the exit button. So no matter what floor that is, like sometimes it's a mezzanine, sometimes it's a garage, sometimes it's a lobby. But if you need to get out of the building, find the button that has the star. So these things come about because someone notices that it needs to make a change. So Lynn, if there was something that could have been better, please be willing to let them know so that they can make it better.
It was kind of like that hotel was like bad for people who had every faculty. Like the shower.
Michelle, yeah.
Cold water for days. And then the guy came in to fix it, goes, you gotta look for this little arrow that's on the knob. Like it looked like it'd been like airbrushed on real subtly. I'm like, are you serious? That's the thing that tells us what's hot or cold.
Yeah, I think the thing that was most difficult, like coming into the process late, the venue was already picked. That venue was built back in the 40s.
Oh God.
And so that conference center, the entrance ways weren't as wide as they should be. The entrances to the bathroom weren't. So like I said, I'm excited, but also I think when the story broke, somebody tagged me. So I'm there for that in general. But like I said, I think I want to make sure I make a difference this year in a bigger way. So
yeah, Joe, I was just going to add, not on the accessibility note, but another thing that I heard that people came to me and I actually heard publicly about WordCamp US was a lot of people felt really sorry for the speakers because there was very few people in this, listening to some of the sessions. And I thought that was interesting because of a couple of reasons. One is, it was a smaller crowd. So in turn, US is usually at the bigger venues that have bigger rooms. And I think the thing that people didn't realize too, when they were saying that, is that this was the first WordCamp US back after 3 years. And a lot of people, I don't want to say we're not, we're blowing off the sessions, but they were so involved with.
They wanted to have conversations and network.
Like
everybody was outside talking.
And so it kind of just happened that way. And, there is, like Sally was saying, there was a lot of good feedback she got from people watching it online and even from the people, that did attend. And I don't think it was a bad thing. I just noticed that several people commented to me and said, well, I was at this session. I felt really bad for the speaker. And I said, but you got to kind of realize this is where we're at right now. You know, with this particular WordCamp, it's not always that way, but it was just interesting that that many people brought it up in both online
Yeah,
and
well, here's one for you guys. If I'm ever in a room and you're the only two people in that room, don't feel bad for me. I don't need that vibe. Okay, don't do that to the speaker.
Well,
I know.
I can say, and thank you for saying that, because I didn't know about the other speaker sessions, but I was a last minute speaker and I was filling in for Marielle Van somebody.
From Yoast, yeah.
From Yoast. So she was still on the sign. I was told I had like 50, 60 people in the room. Well, again, I couldn't see because the lights were like right in my eyes. And when I got up there, I was like, just very nervous. And so, because I said to Kimberly, like, people are going to come in there expecting to see her. And it's not her, because she's a huge speaker, and the sessions are going to be recorded, and they're doing captioning now, right, Joe?
Well, I think that's up to the organizing team and the video team. I believe they're adding them, but I'm not totally sure.
Kim told me that, yeah, because for our WordCamps, we had to do them, to caption them.
Well,
so that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
But that was an organizer decision, Sally.
Yeah.
That wasn't a WordPress organization decision. That was a WordCamp decision. That was our
And I'm
decision
going to be
do
real
that.
here. And I know Joe was on their team and everything, but I've been going to a lot of WordCamps, and San Diego's kind of pulling in the back. Okay, on a lot of things. There was one year they couldn't even record anything because like a lot of the equipment was broken and stuff, and just where they have juxtaposed like sponsors sometimes, whereas in the open space where people were speaking, and so all the people had to hush, and so I wasn't surprised something would go off.
Well,
but,
I mean, I was gonna say, I don't want to badmouth any community, no, but unfortunately, and Bob mentioned he's been to each WordCamp. It usually happens in pairs, and they moved it to the East Coast already, which was unfortunate for me.
Yeah,
and unfortunately, there weren't any San Diego people on the team at all, on the organizing team.
Jesus.
So yeah, so that kind of stinks.
The one thing I asked that maybe for speakers in future, if we, I don't know, Kim said it wasn't possible to get in the room before to practice, just to feel the sense of the room and all that. And she said no.
I was gonna say WordCamps
I don't think
in general.
I've ever been.
Yeah.
I don't think I've been to any venue with any organization ever that I could do that, except a TED Talk, and then that's just a whole different story. But yeah, these things are set up at the last minute. They're tested at the last minute, and it's like ready, set, now.
Yeah.
Sumner, can you share the link to your TED Talk, please?
No.
Oh, she's remote. Yeah, I think you're.
No, it's not recorded.
Oh, okay.
Oh, right, because
no.
it was in person then. Okay.
Yeah, we were in person then. So.
And what was your topic? I mean, I have an idea, but what was the actual topic?
I did too, and I don't recall.
That's for being put on the spot, right?
With my answer, Sally. I'm sorry, but I've had limited sleep after working an event yesterday. One of them had to be an accessibility, but it was more like navigating the world. So I spoke more about bouncing back. What happens when you face failure in life? When suddenly you're at a crossroads of your life, and everything you thought was supposed to be isn't, and you're down and out, and you don't know who your friends are. You don't know what you're going to do to get to the next whatever. Your funds are low, your motivation. What do you do? That's been my talk for years before I ever started talking about accessibility. It was called Rubber Butt. And it's about when you bounce, when you hit rock bottom, you don't stay there, you bounce. And, because so many people go, oh God, I just landed on my butt. Well, then just bounce. So it would have been probably more about bouncing back and motivation, because my first TED Talk was with more than one. It was with like a panel. So
hey Sumner, why don't you use this opportunity to share a little bit about yourself and introduce yourself to the group?
Well, since I've been interfering so much already, I think they know me. But I am, I'm a fair-skinned, blue-eyed, red hair person that my personality matches my appearance. I am, my family history is Irish and Scottish by way of Canada and Minnesota. So we took kind of a roundabout way to get here.
I never knew that.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
I went to school in Nova Scotia, the university there.
Well, my family, when I was growing up, had the cutest accents that I miss terribly now. But as a kid, I didn't, because it made us different. It, you know, told everybody that we were different. But yeah, my family, the red hair is a lineage for us.
So where were you born?
I was actually born in San Diego, a suburb of San Diego. My family was already here and settled when I was born. My family was already here and settled when my parents met. My parents met because my father was stationed in the Navy, and San Diego was one of the largest Navy ports.
Mhm.
And so his father had been in the Navy, so that's why they were in San Diego. So I was born and raised in California. And other than just a few years when I lived in the Caribbean, I've lived here my entire life.
And then the other point I'd love for you to share is, how did you get into accessibility and things of that nature?
Well, it's really odd to me when people ask how I got into it, because it actually has been a part of my life. When I was a child, there was recently a person from Georgia University needed to do a thesis, and she asked if she could interview me and asked me questions that I'd forgotten. When I was growing up, we had a cousin that had polio. And in those days, polio was terminal. But with Norman, it wasn't. He was functional, but on crutches. So we learned at a very young age, if we were going to do something, how could we include Norman? And it wasn't like, oh, darn, we got to take Norman. It was, how can we include him? So that was the thought process. As I grew up, I had friends with various disabilities. So it was always around me as just something normal. I didn't know any other way that it was going to be. It wasn't like, oh, gee, I'm, you know, X years old and that's my first disabled person I've ever met. Unfortunately, for some people, they've not had that great experience of growing up and being around people with disabilities and seeing different ways of life. But what really was my turn was, I'd been designing websites since 1997, and I thought they were pretty cool. You know, we're all enamored with our own opinions. My mother-in-law at the time was blind, and she couldn't see the web. She couldn't see what I was doing, so I would describe it to her. And I thought I was doing a good job. And then one day somebody came to the house to put some software on her computer that made the computer talk to her, and it read out websites. And I was just in awe. And I asked the man more questions than he probably had ever been asked. But then I handed him a couple of URLs of sites that I had built. And I said, oh, I'm so excited. Can you please visit this site so it can talk to her? And he put the URL in, it bounced all over the website. It made no sense at all. I said, well, okay, that's just a fluke. Here, try this other one. This is my favorite. And he put the URL in, and he went there with the screen reader, and it was just horrible the way that it bounced from one segment of content to another. And I said, your software is broken. He goes, no, lady, your website sucks. And so that was my introduction into the technology behind what was needed. And there was no WCAG that I could get my hands on. There were no training classes. I couldn't figure out where I was supposed to go. So I literally would talk to this man almost every single day, try to find out what was going on. I would go to websites that he would send me to, and I would dissect the code to try to find a common balance. And so for the first few years, it was just a hit and a miss until I encountered other people in accessibility. And then they introduced me to the WCAG, and they introduced me to CSUN here in Southern California, the California University that has a complete disabled technology division. And then I started getting involved in working around people that knew more than I did. And so it was a step-by-step journey. Not like today when somebody can go, okay, go see this class, go take this class, read this document. I mean, when I look at how far we have come with the available education, it's made it so simple for people to be able to learn it. And that means if we're simple now, it's going to get even more so for people to be able to learn it and apply it natively.
So I have a question. When were you doing tables as a layout? Was that probably why? because that's what was happening in
Oh, well, whatever
1997.
Dreamweaver template was there.
Oh God, yeah, there we go.
Because that was the days of
Oh,
Dreamweaver, you know? So it was
yes.
like, it was either Microsoft Front Page or Dreamweaver. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, well, let's go to Dreamweaver. It looks a little more flashy.
And everybody was
yeah.
saying
And that's
HTML
what we were
was dead.
working with then. Yeah.
And I know
Yeah.
before you jumped on, Sumner, Suzette mentioned that she's starting her journey for certification right now. So it's exciting to see her do that. But now so much education's available. How do you know which path to go down? I know, like when I met Alex for the first time, he's self-taught. Like so many folks, like you mentioned, were self-taught or got experience from other people that are much more knowledgeable in a less formal setting. How would you recommend somebody go about certifying or leveling up in accessibility?
Well, to understand one's motivation for certification, what is it they want to get? Because there are so many offerings. You can get offerings not only from the IAAP, you can get offerings from various colleges like Washington University, University of Illinois. They also have certification programs. So and then there's Section 508. I mean, it looks pretty cool when you tell somebody that Homeland Security says you're trusted. You know, each one of those has a different motivation. So what is your motivation? Why do you want the certification? And then use that motivation to choose which one and in which order to get them. And that also helps with the learning. If what you want is to learn everything there is to know about accessibility, I still to this day tell everyone they should start with that free course on the W3, the WAI, the Introduction to Accessibility, simply because it shows persons with disabilities actually attempting to use the web. You see it, you can hear it. They've got captions on the videos, they got audio descriptions, it is the most accessible program you will find. To start there to get a human understanding. And then once you've got a human understanding, then what pushed your button? What motivated you to what do you want to learn and do next? Because there's so much opportunity now to learn. Choose which one rings your chime and follow that one first. And if you're going for the IAAP certifications, the CCPA will tell you a lot about disabilities, and it may enlighten your education in a way that you had no idea. You did not know that this was an issue. You did, like some of the things Lynn talked about with an elevator. Had you not thought about it, you wouldn't think that, gee, not having a voice tell you what floor you're on is not an issue. Which is odd because I grew up where all elevators had that voice, and for some reason it went away. And so when you go in for that one, it's a lot about disability and a little bit about technology. If you go for the WAP, now that's real technology. Then you need to know ARIA, and you need to know HTML, and you need to know code. So how far do you want your education? And do it in a way that it's pleasurable. I have a couple of friends that they dropped out because it just got tedious. I said, you were doing it wrong. Accessibility is fun. It's exciting. You're opening new worlds for people. You're opening a new world for yourself. So if it's tedious, just take a different fork in the road. You know, stay on your path, but take it a different direction. And so follow your heart. That is probably the best. JQ has an excellent membership program that you can get a lot of educational programs. I think it's like 300 and change a year.
Yeah, 315.
Yeah, and it's an excellent self-study. So you can go back again and again and again if there's something you don't understand. University of Illinois has also programs that are put out in segments, and you get certified for each segment that you take, everything from beginning accessibility to advanced code. I'm not sure what University of Washington offers anymore, but with this many offerings, what speaks to your heart? That's really what'll keep you going. And it'll keep you from being blinded by the shortcuts and the false promises.
Also, I wanted to say too, there's no path that everyone's taking, and if you're not like at this level with that person or that whatever, that you're short on something.
Absolutely.
That you're I really want people to get rid of the imposter syndrome thing. You don't have to be an accessibility advocate and know how to code. So I'm talking to
You
somebody.
do you.
Yeah.
I know, Alicia. Thank you
But
again.
you got to get off this rail where you think that because someone's there and I'm not there yet, and I'm out working for the air rally, and like I must be faking it. No, there's nothing like that. Your whole life is like learning stuff. It's all a different path. It's your unique thing. As long as you have a heart that's open to point out to the lobby at the hotel that they don't have raised numbers on the buttons, and like that's it. You're doing it.
Yeah.
You're doing
And
it.
Suzette, see that now you see why we love Sumner so much, huh?
Well,
Yeah,
here's
What's
one-
up, man?
Sumner's talk. And
Here's just
your
one other
experience.
little note based on that, Alicia and Sally, is the great thing, the awesome thing about being involved in the accessibility community as a whole is that you are not doing it alone. There is absolutely no way on this planet that I believe that any one person should be doing anything alone. Everything is so intertwined. If I am remediating a website and I've got this list of instructions as to what, unfortunately, for those that don't know, I do work with sites that have been sued. And so I'm given the whole list of what they're sued for, what was the issues. So I'm looking at the list of issues. I, as a sighted individual, am going to be able to fix a couple of those because I'm a sighted person, but I cannot legally and legitimately test it for a screen reader unless I use a native person or a certified tester. So I'm neither one of those. So I get someone who is either blind or a certified tester with NVDA to do that. The same thing with testing other parts of code. If it's beyond my area of expertise, I don't need to stop and go, oh gosh, somebody teach me this. I just need to say, hey, who knows this? And there is someone in the accessibility that can do
Ding,
that.
ding,
So that's
ding, ding, ding.
exactly. So Sally, you are never doing it alone. You're always going to find benefit when you work with others. And that's the beauty of accessibility. It's called inclusive. We are including others. So by nature of that alone, you've got to include others in order to do accessibility the native way.
Awesome. All right. Any other thoughts before we move on? Suzette, any thoughts on what you just heard?
Oh, it's just
hey,
so
Ida.
exciting. I'm really a long way through, and I'm just now starting to tap into the community. And I am an IAAP member. I'm a new member, and their connections page, which I was trying to find a study group. I guess it's not working. So
I'll send you
I
a
did
link.
in my WordPress, I was setting up a blog for accessibility learning and all of that. And I saw in the events that this event was happening, and I'm like, oh, it's for me because it's right now and I'm studying this. So I'm glad to be a part of it. Thank you so much for
Oh, wow. We got a whole list of
join.
meetups to put
Yeah,
in
so
there.
just come. Sumner has a meetup. I think it's been on hiatus this summer. They may be starting up soon.
Amber
WordPress
Hines.
Accessibility is coming. Amber has a meetup. So there's quite a few
Yes, I'll
folks in
definitely
the
be
community
looking
that are
for
doing
more meetups, accessibility meetups.
Awesome.
And
I
start
didn't want-
following people on LinkedIn.
Oh yes, I've been
Lots
doing
of-
these for
lots of
quite a
people.
while.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And get on Slack. There is an A11y Slack channel, and you will find, if you send me your email address, I can send you an invitation. You'll
Yeah,
find
that would be great.
people studying for their various certifications do have study groups that they post on there.
Oh, that
Awesome.
would be perfect. Yes, I'm happy to share my email address.
Awesome. All right.
William,
So
you changed.
yeah. Yeah, we'll go to Ida next, and then Larry, and wrap it up with Dwayne in terms of introduction. Hey, Ida, thanks for jumping on. We're sort of looking back at our experience at WordCamp US. Anything else you want to share about yourself or what you're working on, and take it from there.
I just wanted to jump on and say hi, and to say it was so great to see so many of you in person. After working with you online during all that time, it's great to meet new people, but to actually give you guys a hug and meet you in person. So I just wanted to say
awesome.
So I've been I've been listening because I work with I'm a teacher at A11y University out of North Carolina, and I teach equity for the web. So part of what I talk about is the accessibility portion of it. So it's great to hear some of what you guys are saying, because just like what Sumner and Alicia was saying, I may not be an expert, but I know enough to bring awareness and then to direct them to the experts. When people say, well, I don't really know how to do this, like, you know, I can direct you to people who can actually help you make your website more accessible or your content more accessible, but at least bring awareness to it, because some people are just not aware.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, Larry. You've been sitting quietly with a really scary object as your backdrop.
Hellraiser playground. Anyway, I want to piggyback on something Sumner said about speaking up. A few years back, Lynn and I went to a concert at the Disney Center. It was a really good concert and we had a good time there. But she noticed that the program they handed out, you know, the print was just too small. She couldn't read anything in the program. You know, I had to, you know, like read a few things to her out of it that she wanted to know. And you know, that was what they gave everybody. So after the concert, you know, Lynn stepped up and she talked to the Disney people, you know, the Disney theater people, about how, you know, they had a need for a giant print or a large print program. She pointed out the fact to them that, you know, a lot of visually impaired people really enjoy going to concerts, and also a lot of seniors, their eyes are going bad, so they could use the big print too. And she went to them and they listened. And the next time we were at the Disney Center, they had a giant print version of their program. They didn't have a lot of copies, and they did ask that they would be returned, you know, after the show so they could use them, you know, at a future performance. But when you do step up and let a business know that, you know, that they're doing things, you know, wrong, you know, or that they could do things better, let's put it in that term, that they could do it better as opposed to wrong, you know, a lot of the time they will step up and they will make the improvements necessary. So, you know, as Sumner said, don't be afraid to point something out, you know, when it comes up. And about the WordCamp, you know, it was all about you, Sally. You know, Lynn and I really wanted to see, you know, your talk, so we made a point of being there. We weren't able to do a whole lot more than that, but other than that, it was easy to get around and see different things, you know, in the program and jump from one room to the other room and all of that, and that was all cool. But it was all about you, Sally, and you were great, you know, and you had such high energy, you know, and it was like wall-to-wall energy. It was like a Who concert or something. It was like wall-to-wall energy, you know. It was really great. You were super enthusiastic, and I'm pretty sure everybody there definitely got a total kick out of what you had to say and were motivated and inspired by it. And one thing I'm doing right now, Lynn found this great website called upskillcourses.com. And I signed up for that, and I am taking the Essential Web Developer course, 197 lessons, and I'm just like a few lessons in. So I'm going to do that so I can learn a bit more and get better at this on my little journey to becoming, you know, good at this stuff. And that's about all that's going on with me. And I'm going to post a link to that site if anybody wants to check it out. There
Thank
it is.
you, Larry. Are there accessibility courses on there?
There are no specific accessibility courses. It's mostly coding and stuff like
Okay.
that.
Okay.
So, you know, it's that end of it. It doesn't have the accessibility courses, but, you know, maybe they will one day
Yeah.
after Lynn and I get done with them.
Hey, awesome, awesome, Larry. The great thing about this community is that we seem to travel. That's pretty awesome. And Dwayne, I didn't want to leave you off. Thank you for joining us again. Thanks for coming back.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, it's good to see you guys. I just, yeah, I wasn't at the WordCamp show. I was. This is only my second time with you guys. And,
Yeah, no problem. Just welcoming you back. And if there's anything you want to share or anything that's on your mind, go for it.
I just enjoying. It's just kind of interesting. I joined this group just because I was looking just to upgrade my skill set, you know, in basic WordPress. and didn't know that you guys had this accessibility focus. And accessibility was not something that was, you know, top of mind for me. And I'm making a publishing site, a WordPress-based publishing site. And I just realized how important this is, you know, and especially listening to some of the stories that you guys were sharing, like a person who, you know, who's not sighted, for example, you know, we want to be able to reach those people. And so our design has to take that into account. And then not just from a consumption standpoint for them to be able to, you know, hear the content, but what if they want to write? Like, can we reverse that process for them so that, you know, they can speak and have some kind of automated, you know, writing so they can publish just like a sighted person can.
Well, also, Dwayne, remember, if you take away sighted and non-sighted and just put the category of screen reader users, then we're into cognitive issues. There are people who can actually see and they need that screen reader to read the website to them.
So yeah, good point.
So there's a lot more people in the percentage than people think, that people cannot see anything. You know, that's what I thought it was all about. The people who were blind coming to the web. Then it turns out to be like this whole array of almost infinite differences that people encounter on the web.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's once you get in, it's a journey. Yeah.
Oh, Alicia, a friend of mine falls into that category. She had a stroke. She can still see, but she cannot read printed material.
Yeah.
Mm.
Dyslexics will use it also. The screen reader.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and I guess a lot of people with strokes, they have, or they develop some sort of visual disability, which may or may not get well over time. But I didn't know that that was possible, but it is.
Yeah, and I know for me, just my experience and just using certain sites or certain apps just to do basic stuff can be difficult for me. So it's just about making people that build things more aware of what they need to do. And I think we're all in positions to do that. So I'm excited to see what we do as a community to sort of impact the work that we do and the work that we do with our client.
I just want to point out that we have Dwayne here, and was this just today on this discussion, Dwayne, that this realization happened, or have you been coming to these a lot and it's been accessibility issues talked about? Sorry,
I forgot I had that off. I just got off work right before the meeting, and so I was eating, and then I had my video off. But no, I think it started in the first meeting. We talked about it a little bit.
Yeah, Alicia, for some backstory, and sorry to interrupt, Dwayne, that was during the West Hills overlay issue. And our last meetup, I sort of took a left turn and we just talked about the overlays at our last meeting. Yeah, that was Dwayne's first. Yeah. So for those that don't know, a local meetup here in West Hills had someone on to talk about overlays and was saying how it makes WordPress easier to use, et cetera, et cetera. And so everyone in our community, our hairs on our back.
The person who was hosting the damn, never mind.
But go ahead. I mean, if you want to share, go ahead and we could talk about it now again, if you'd like.
Yes, please.
So yeah, so just for some backstory, there's a group that's been pitching their tool in the WordPress community as a way to make your sites accessible, which it doesn't. And just from the description on their page, a lot of us went ballistic. And I said, I'm going to drop out of this. I'm leaving your community. This is kind of ridiculous. Please reconsider. And a number of us did different things to sort of voice our objection. Go ahead, jump in, Bob. You were going to say something, and we can sort of. Oh, Bob is leaving. So go ahead and take it from there, Alicia, or anyone else.
Well, I watched part of the video too. I don't want to say the name. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. There's the overlays. We all know. There's a little guy in the corner, a little circle. It's waving down the lawyers. Okay, that's that's what's happening.
It's flagging them down like a
You
taxi cab.
click it open, and my friend who didn't even know what an overlay was, I go, this is what it is. I clicked it open. She goes, that is so demeaning. I'm like, oh, I never even realized that. that aspect of it, that here's the training wheel so you can actually use the website. So anyway, they had a representative speaking on this thing. I only watched part of the recording, not even the whole thing. I missed Eric Lucard's stuff, but the one thing that I really feel we have to counter is their answer to why there's an overlay page about, why overlays are bad and all this press that's on the internet. Their response to that is that it's disrupting this copious giant, I guess, industry of web developers who actually want to fix websites that are not accessible. First of all, where are those people? Like, have you seen that? I want to see the pie chart of that. Like next, if you ever in a room with any of these overlay companies that begin with A, and they tell you that story, someone needs to ask, can we see the pie chart where you're eating into this huge industry? And since while you're getting that pie chart up, can you explain why the only thing I've seen is people with disabilities complaining about it? Okay, because that's the part that really is incensing me, is that they're just kind of waving it off saying, oh, we're disrupting an industry, of course they're going to be upset, and completely ignoring people who are suffering. And so that's why I kind of wish I had been at the meeting. And I know that Joe's whole thing was he didn't want to go because they were there, but I feel like there are more people need to counter them when they show up.
Yeah, and I know Ron, one of our colleagues, Ron actually went and he helped record the meetup. Sally, were you going to jump in and say something, or I didn't want to interrupt you, Alicia.
No, so what has happened since that that meetup has
Nothing.
where people sign nothing?
Nothing.
Yeah, I haven't seen them do
what
another
has happened is the organizers, well, two things have happened. The organizers one of the organizers is pushing it like crazy. One of the other, and I'm not going to separate the two because it's unfair at this moment, and I would be disclosing a confidentiality that was given to me. One of them has actually reached out to someone to help make a client site accessible natively. But the reason I didn't go to the meeting is when I introduce myself and say that I have red hair, the personality to match, that is a great joke, and it's very much the truth. And I know enough about what they say and how they say it that I was not convinced that I could stay professional and hold
your tongue.
Yeah. And so Ron, being a very level-headed person and very easygoing, is the perfect person to have gone in there and represented. But I did not want to get into a battle, and they knew that I was on the RSVP list. So I'm sure that they were anticipating I might show up, because in the past I have, and I have been very rude at interrupting. And so when they would say something like you said, Alicia, where they would say they're interrupting this big industry of people that are just trying to charge $10,000, I would interrupt. Who, where, who, what people? Tell me.
Well, see, I
don't want to be the person to do that, because they irritate me. I allow them to irritate me because their dishonesty is so prevalent. But people that know me know that the majority of my business comes from remediating sites or educating people on how to remediate a site that's gotten a demand letter or has gotten sued. And we get those from sites that have that overlay on it. The problem is that they say, well, nobody's ever been sued, because people, once they get sued, are so embarrassed. They don't want people to know that they were sued. So they don't go, look, we put it on our site, we got sued. They won't do that. And so they know that. It's not like, they can immediately run to any other type of a civil case and look it up and go, oh yeah, see, here's how many people were sued. Those demand letters enough are what people are seeing.
Yeah, and if the overlay didn't work, it means that their whole website's still unaccessible, so they don't want to bring any more attention to them to get sued again.
It's a real sticky wicket. And the other thing also is, I ask people, I say, if I introduce to you a product and my product is so bad that someone else has to make a product to block my product from being used, What does that say about my product? Because someone did create a plugin that if it's installed on your computer, it blocks that overlay from loading. So what does it say about my product if it is so bad that someone created a product to block it, to prevent people from being harmed by it?
And then it's not only that, there's the privacy violations too.
They're huge privacy violations.
Right? No one should have to like cough up that they are using assisted technology to some random third-party company so this thing can turn on. They don't why do you have to do that? That's, and in California, that's not gonna fly very far, because we're
Well,
getting
they don't, it's not when you click the button. That's the thing that people don't realize. It's not when you activate the overlay that it identifies that the person is using assisted technology. Allegedly, by their own admission, they can tell if someone comes to the website and is using a screen reader, whether or not they activate that.
Oh, that's
overlay.
right, because they want to not.
That is the violation of privacy.
Yeah.
Wow. So see, Dwayne, see, it's.
All Sumner started this.
Oh, no,
Divided.
I was going to say, I mean, to me, I think the thing is you can often feel overwhelmed when you hear all these, things that are going on, but it's really, if you take a focused approach, and I think it was mentioned during the discussion, find what speaks to you and advocate for that, and you'll do your clients, you'll do something great for your clients.
Okay,
I also want
that's
to
good
say
advice.
something too, and to help Sumner out here, because about a year and a half ago, well, I've heard this first started for me in April 2020. I think I was on my Meetup and I had one of those overlays on a client site, and Sumner told me about it, and I snuck off while she was talking and took it off. It's like client didn't know it was on there. I was like, what? And I was like, first of all, it was embarrassing to me. It's like, I'll make it accessible because I know how to code, I don't need that thing. And then I remember Sumner saying something about, I sometimes think it's a losing battle. Like I tell people and it's not enough. I just want to say, Sumner, I'm sure you see by now that it's doing the ski slope. It's starting a ski slope right now, or the L or whatever. There are so many people who are getting impacted and jumping on board, and my own experience and my own perception that it's no longer a thing where you kind of have to fight tooth and nail just to tell people what it is. Like now, if someone says they don't have time to do it, they kind of look really bad. You know what I mean? Before it was kind of like everybody could agree, oh yeah, it's an extra that we don't want to do, da 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 da. But now it's becoming such an important thing, and I'm seeing it mentioned everywhere in all kinds of aspects of society now, that it's not. You should feel proud of what the groundwork you've done over the years, where you thought it was like you just alone or just a few people, or maybe no one's going to get it, but it's happening now. I just wanted you to know that from my heart. I was so profoundly thankful that night that I think you were the only one that showed up to the Meetup too. I'm like, it was just me and you, and it changed everything for me. It really did. It changed the whole perspective.
And that's
I appreciate that people are hearing and listening, but what I do appreciate is when people speak, and what you did, Alicia, to generate press during our air competition, when you were willing to go to them and say, hey, can you guys fix this? This is not accessible and it needs to be. And they went, well, hey, yeah, thanks for bringing that to our attention, and we're going to do that. When we have a very large company such as them, a theme that is as popular, a builder that code, whatever product it is that you're putting on your site, when you have one that you find is not accessible and you speak to them and they listen and they do something, that's how the change actually takes place, because now they become the advocate and they become the apostle. They're the ones that are saying, hey, look, we've got this. And if they post it anywhere on GitHub or on their own blog, now we've got the message out even more at the core level. It is a lot of people that enter into web design because WordPress is easy. It's, drop and drag and paste. And so, hey, anybody can be a web designer. The more we get people like Generate Press, and the more we get people that understand accessibility, and the more we get people to understand the harm of doing shortcut, the more it'll be done correctly. And it just doesn't have to be yelling at the bad guys. It's supporting the good guys. It's telling people that are doing it correctly, hey, we are excited that You listened that your code needed a little tweak, and you fixed it. Wow, I'm going to tell everybody in my community, and we're going to keep supporting you because you support accessibility. So,
And I'm not sure that many other like they have like their block plugin premium, like they have a space for ARIA labels and role, everything like that you can add per block. It's pretty nice.
Sally's talking, I see her mouth.
Can I add a little bit in? Because I know we're just a little bit over.
Hey, you're more than welcome.
Oh, thank you. So last week, one of my friends who's a real estate agent, I told her about accessibility last year, and she didn't do anything, but she has a broker that uses a template that all the brokers put their websites on, and she received a demand letter for 16 grand. I sent it to Sumner. It was pretty aggressive, it was ridiculous. Anyways, the issue is that these companies that build these templates are putting everyone in jeopardy. So when she wrote the company and told them, what did they do? They put a friggin' AudioEye overlay on her site. They're like, well, we have these that makes sense. So I had her tell them to get it off right away. And I'm trying to
They went from one bad one to another bad one?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's what they do. They cover up badly coded websites.
Well,
and
they don't
people
know any
that.
better, right? They're, oh, we have this that could help you to make your site accessible, because that's what these stupid overlay companies tell them, right? And that's the big issue, is how do we overcome that when they already are of this mindset, for $40 a month, I can make my website accessible. So anyways, I'm trying to get to speak to them because I want to bring Sumner in to show them how to get into their template, make it accessible so they don't put more people, at jeopardy. But I'm also part of a huge digital marketing organization that supports smaller digital marketing agencies. And they recently brought on AudioEye, and I'm putting this in chat. In their FAQ, I mean, I just like my mouth just dropped. It says, however, users of assistive technology dedicate a lot of time customizing and learning how to use their particular tools. So it is unlikely that anyone with their own assistive tool would utilize the AudioEye toolbar instead. I'm like, are you kidding me? I mean, we all know this is true, but they're putting it in their FAQs.
So
but
then what is their answer for using their product if they're right now saying they're not going to use it?
But then it says the toolbar does provide other elements users may wish to interact with should they want to explore its features, including submitting an accessibility barrier via the help desk.
I don't understand what that means.
I know, it's just
That's the point, is to confuse you with gibberish.
Yeah.
What that last part means is that if you launch the toolbar and it created an interference with whatever you were using, there isn't a call to action button at the bottom that you send feedback to AudioEye to tell them you just created a barrier with their toolbox. So here's the issue that a lot of people in the accessibility community have with that. Anytime you use any protected group as your guinea pig, just use the word guinea pig right now, right?
Yeah.
You just demeaned that group.
Yeah.
You're not doing your homework, you're not doing your work, and you want for free these people to have to suffer, have inconvenience or whatever in order to tell you what they want you to do for them, instead of doing your homework and doing it right in the first place. So that is a real issue of putting that at the bottom of their pop out.
Yeah.
Here's the thing with AudioEye. They've been around for a very, very, very long time. And they also offer a program, whereas after they put the overlay on a particular website, they offer you a maintenance program where they will monitor the website and manually fix certain things that need to be fixed. So they do have developer capabilities. They're very expensive, but they do have that. Unlike the AS1, who is being sued by AudioEye for copying their code, they have most recently copied a lot of their TNC and a lot of their business model. So what happens is that because the overlay company is based out of India, it's hard to sue them directly here in the United States. So what's happening is there is a group of people in New York, and believe it or not, New York has more lawsuits than we do in California. I know that's a shock. I'm glad you're all sitting down because we have been proud to lead the way for so many years. Sarcasm. Anyway, what they are doing, since they can't go after the overlay company themselves, they're going after the organizations that are selling it.
Yes,
So like
but
if there's a marketing person that is selling, using this on your website, they're going after that marketing person for wrongful advertising, FDA violations, practicing law without a license by quoting the ADA. They are going after the resellers. And so if what I'm reading correctly in these cases, their attempt is to stop the flow chain. If nobody's willing to sell their product, how are they going to get their product out to people? If no middle person, the marketing company, is willing to sell it, or a web designer, how are they going to then be able to do it? So if they can't sue the company themselves, which there is numerous FDA complaints about them, then they're going after the middle guys, the ones that are reselling the product. There are people that call themselves accessibility professionals, and that's all they do is they add the overlay. So they're going after those people. I've already read 3 of those cases, and it's severe.
okay,
But, go ahead.
so with this company that builds the templates for the mortgage brokers, they sent their terms and agreements and says that they are not responsible for anything from this, this plugin. So of course, all these overlay companies indemnify themselves as well. So are those agreements not valid then by going after the resellers?
I'm not an attorney, so I can't answer that from a legal standpoint.
Yeah.
All I can say is that if someone sent me one of these letters to my company and said, you are selling a product that is misrepresenting, it is false advertising, and quote the FDA and say the FDA says that false advertising is this kind of penalty and this much of a problem, and you are giving legal advice, and according to our references, we don't see that you personally, the person giving this advice, is an attorney, and therefore in the state of which you are in, this is a state violation and it's a federal violation, and quoting those, I think I would be scared. I think that I would immediately be hiring an attorney going, wah, and that's, and that's when it says, in these cases, it says, the false information that you are providing is selling a product that terms itself as an overlay that allegedly creates instant accessibility for persons with disabilities, and by our research shows that it doesn't. I mean, these things are the persons that are bringing these cases in New York right now have done their homework, and I can tell by reading the brief that they're really, really pissed off.
This is where it's going to start happening.
Yeah.
Because they're going to start targeting web developers too.
They already are.
My girlfriend's
and they already
letter.
can.
Yeah, my girlfriend's letter said that we'll be suing the developer of your site as well. This includes the developer of your site as well.
Here's the thing that I've learned over the years. The company, us, each individual here on this call, if you are a business, you are required by law to know all the laws, regulations, permits, etc., that are related to your business and running your business. And ignorance is no excuse. So if you do not know, that's not a defense. So that you, as the website owner, you hire someone to do something by law, by definition of law, you are now required to know if that person is providing you what you need to have provided. So if your web design person, if you didn't vet them in all the ways that you did not understand for them to do what they needed to do to build you a website, you as a business person are still liable. Now, that doesn't mean that web designer can't be sued for not preventing it, and whether or not that case works, wins, or goes through is not as much of an issue as how much it will cost to make it go away. If you as a web design person had your client sue you for X amount of dollars because they got sued, first thing you're going to have to do is hire an attorney. So even if it never went to court, it's still going to cost you, and it might even cost you your business. So it's a real ugly, ugly area of it that, it's just so much cleaner and so much better to be the persons that step out of that muck and create websites correctly and don't be the targets for
Then you get
that
better
type
work.
of behavior. Be an example of
Might
good.
be working for PayPal. Look at their website. That thing is amazing. If you've ever been, go check it out.
Well, I'm kind of proud of PayPal because 2 of their developers were on my mentor team when I was mentoring last year for another
Oh,
organization.
it is
So.
a beautiful example of beauty and movements and everything that you think an accessible website shouldn't be, and it's there, right there, and it's just gorgeous, and makes you want to, yeah.
You know, I have over the years, I've asked people, if you were going to plan a website, let's start and think, I'm going to plan a party. I'm going to plan a party at my home, and I'm going to invite all the people that I really enjoy. And some of my friends are going to bring people with them. They're plus ones or people I've not yet met, but they're going to enjoy. How can I make that party fun for everyone?
Yeah.
How can I make it to where when they come into my home, they feel welcome? How can I make it to where while they're doing whatever, that they feel welcome in my home? Well, that means that I have to know my friends to begin with. And that means I have now coming from the heart of wanting to care. If we went to our website and did the same thing, how are we going to make my website to where people that come to it are feel welcome, that they find what they need, that they're able to navigate through it, and they're able to leave feeling that they were treated well, and see it more personally instead of out there in the digital world? I think that makes a difference, because accessibility, even though it's a code-driven aspect on our website, it's a personal issue. So how do you make everybody feel welcome? And sometimes it's telling a client, you know what, you really don't want to do that, because what you just asked me to do on your website would not be welcoming to people.
Yeah, I do that.
Choose your words, you know, in that game, you know. Yes, they want people to come to the website. Yes, they want people to be able to purchase their products on the website. Yes, they want more business. But if people don't feel welcome when they land on your website because you chose all the colors and designs and style that you like, but your audience doesn't like, did it work?
Oh, I was doing that before accessibility. I'm really good at talking people out of that
To doing stuff.
edge.
Well, actually, I'm gonna use that brief break to thank everybody again for coming today. What we're gonna do in the next couple of meetups leading up to WordPress Accessibility Day, November 2nd and 3rd, I think, is to sort of highlight some accessibility topics in small bite-sized chunks. So in the upcoming meetups, we'll talk about things like color, how to, you know, do certain basics in accessibility to sort of highlight them in the lead up to WordPress Accessibility Day. For those that don't know, it's a 24-hour WordPress event that's going to go through all the time zones in the world with specific, all topics specifically related to accessibility. So it's a great way to get immersed. I know the first time they had it, I was on the organizing team with volunteers, but Sumner, Alicia spoke, and it was a pretty awesome time. So we did a mega meetup with a couple of other meetups. You know, we did it with Sumner's meetup and
August 8th, 2020.
yeah, to sort of highlight it. And so we were just, you know, it was the beginning of a journey where we just got involved in everything we could because of the inspiration of Sumner. So the reason I say that is because this year we're going to do a panel as part of the event. It was accepted, and 4 of us are going to talk about Sumner's impact on us and how it helped grow our community. So that's going to be exciting as well. So that's what we're going to do, and what I hope to do is to do at least 3 meetups before the 2nd, if not 2. So I'll put those up as soon as I can, and again, it's going to be sort of like what we did today, talk about a subject, and everybody can just sort of lean in with the information that they have in relation to it from an accessibility standpoint. And we'll sort of get pumped up for WordPress Accessibility Day. So with that, any closing comments or other ideas before we wrap it up today? And I get back, and I get, by the way, and I get back to work.
This. Yeah, this has been really awesome. I love meeting everybody and getting resources. I think you guys are a great group of people, and I'd love to learn from you some more. So I'm probably going to be attending more meetups.
Yeah, follow us around. There's like a full-on like clique like an Avita cast. We move around in this group. Like there's a whole bunch of other people like in the evenings on the weeknights. So yeah.
I've been to 40 WordCamps, but I've been to well 300 Grateful Dead concerts.
Spoke at 40. Let's say that she has been to more than 40.
I
Yeah,
know, and we're just joshing with you. I hope.
I get
please
it,
don't
but
take
I want to make sure we clarify. She spoke at 40.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Thank you for contributing that. And the other thing I wanted to mention too is that your background is really awesome. He's one of my
Thank
favorite
you.
artists. I did a after WordCamp, I needed to sort of decompress, and I did a day like 2 weekends ago. Friday, I went to three of the museums here in LA, just training it, and I went to LACMA, and they had that that painting on the wall.
Oh,
That's amazing.
So we're connected.
I love museums too. So
Yeah.
great.
It's sort of my way to unwind and see some great creativity. All right. Thanks again, Dwayne, for coming back. Thanks, Sumner, for joining us. Thanks, Lynn and Larry, as always, for being there for us, and Alicia and Sally.
Thanks,
it's so
Joe,
great
for a great welcome Saturday morning. You always make these meetups fun and educational. We get to learn stuff while we're having a good time and meeting new people.
I know for me, it goes back to what Alicia was saying about the imposter syndrome. I don't know what my role is in the WordPress community, but I know I enjoy talking with people, and just when I find, and I'm going to share this story during Accessibility Day, but during our first WordCamp Santa Clarita, I was looking for speakers, and I had a really rough background in accessibility. In my office, it's sort of in the background, unfortunately. And I saw Sumner was speaking at the West Hills Meetup. Unfortunately, they're infamous for the wrong reasons now. And I went to see her at that meetup to ask her to speak at our WordCamp. And it sort of changed the course of how I've been involved in the WordPress community ever since. So I know I'm glad that I met her, and I know everyone else is. So that's sort of what we do. We sort of want to teach each other and learn and see what each other does. I know it was really cool to hear that Sally is going to launch her site and Pam is going to launch hers. That's the kind of stuff I get most excited about, because a lot of people can get overwhelmed by these messages. But really, if you just take it in a focused approach and just take off what really, attack what means something to you or what's important to you, you'll do something great. So we're just here to encourage you to do that. So
that's really awesome.
All right. So I'm gonna, hopefully nobody's in the office and heard me doing a meetup for the last
I know.
hour.
We thought your boss came in when you jumped off.
Oh no, it was, I think my other phone to connect, I'm a wireless, so it just started acting weird. So I had to switch to my personal phone and keep it going. So yeah.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for everything.
Yeah,
Good seeing everybody.
Yeah, and like I said,
everybody.
look for the meetup notice. I'll probably put it up tomorrow. We'll probably do it a week or 2 weeks from now, and we'll start with color, go to caption, do it just some basic stuff. If there's something you want to know about, I'll see what I can do, or I'll try to get that information in front of us. But I look forward to it. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
See you, Lynn. See you later.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks,
Have a
Joe.
good weekend.
Thanks, Sumner. Bye.